The Chiefs are heading into their divisional round playoff matchup against the Houston Texans with a strong advantage. Not only are they well rested, but it's also likely that they'll have a key defensive player back on the field. Add to that the potential for some breakout performances from a few key players, and the Texans could be in for a tough challenge. In this preview, I'll dive into what's at stake for both teams, including a recent roster move, a new signing, and more. First, the Chiefs made a minor roster move today by signing wide receiver Jason Brownlee to their practice squad. To make room for him, they released veteran tight end Robert Tonyan from the squad. Brownlee, a 6'2", 200-pound receiver, brings an impressive athletic profile with a relative athletic score of 8.95, thanks to his strong vertical and broad jump. He went undrafted in 2023 but was picked up by the Jets, where he made their 53-man roster. Over the course of the season, Brownlee played more than 300 offensive snaps, though he only received 8 targets, catching 5 of them for 56 yards and a touchdown. He spent most of this season on the Jets' practice squad, but with their season now over, he's found a new home in Kansas City. While Brownlee is unlikely to make a big impact in the playoffs, he could contribute to the Chiefs' scout team, giving them a bigger-bodied receiver to help prepare for the Texans, who have been running fewer 2 tight end sets due to injury. With that out of the way, let's turn our attention to the Chiefs' playoff run. They're just 3 games away from achieving something truly remarkable: 3 Super Bowl wins in a row. Standing in their way are the Houston Texans, whom the Chiefs defeated just last month, 27-9. In that game, Kansas City controlled the clock and ended the game by kneeling down inside the Texans' 20-yard line. Patrick Mahomes threw for 260 yards and a touchdown, while the running game was led by Isaiah Pacheco. On the receiving end, players like Xavier Worthy, Marquise Hollywood Brown, and Travis Kelce made key contributions. Brown in particular had a standout performance in his regular season debut, helping the Chiefs take advantage of the Texans' man-heavy defense. As we look ahead to Saturday's game, I expect similar success in the passing game, with Hollywood Brown playing a key role again. Several pass catchers, including Kelce and DeAndre Hopkins, could continue to make an impact. A crucial element of the Chiefs' victory last time was their quick passing game, which helped offset the absence of left guard Joe Thuney, who was filling in at left tackle, and Mike Sendo, who played at left guard. This quick-release strategy was essential to counter Houston's strong pass rush, and it worked well, as the Chiefs put up 375 total yards of offense. In addition to their offensive success, the Chiefs excelled in both time of possession and red zone efficiency, converting 3 of 5 red zone opportunities into touchdowns. Meanwhile, the Texans only managed 1 touchdown out of 3 red zone trips. Texans quarterback C.J. Stroud threw 2 interceptions, which only added to the Chiefs' advantage in the turnover battle. Winning the turnover battle and converting red zone chances into touchdowns is a recipe for success, and that's exactly what the Chiefs did in their last meeting with the Texans. If they continue that same approach, they'll be in great shape for another victory. In the previous matchup between the Chiefs and the Texans, 2 unlikely players, Joshua Williams and Mike Pennell, managed to sack Houston's quarterback, C.J. Stroud. On the other hand, Mahomes was sacked just once by Texans linebacker Christian Harris. Looking ahead to this divisional round, the Chiefs may make some changes to their offensive line. It's likely they'll start DJ Humphries at left tackle, moving Joe Thuney back inside to left guard, where he's known to be elite. Thuney did an okay job filling in at left tackle, but his real strength lies in left guard. If Humphries can provide serviceable play at left tackle, the improvement from Mike Sendo at left guard to Thuney's level of play is significant. Humphries had a solid performance at left tackle during the Chiefs' Week 18 game against Denver, although he did struggle a bit as the game went on and he got tired. However, his hamstring held up well, and I believe he earned the chance to start. The key here is that strong play at left guard from Thuney, combined with reliable left tackle play from Humphries, is better than having an average left tackle and a weaker left guard. Andy Reid, though, has been keeping his cards close to his chest on this matter. He was tight-lipped with the media on Tuesday, mentioning that both Thuney and Sendo had done well at their positions, but also acknowledging that Humphries performed well in Denver. The Chiefs will rotate all 3 players at left tackle during practice this week to decide who will get the start. While Reid hasn't revealed his decision yet, I'm curious to hear what you think. Who would you prefer to see at left tackle? Looking at the Chiefs' history with the Texans, Kansas City has had a dominant record under Andy Reid since 2013, winning 8 of their 10 matchups, 80%. The two losses came in 2016 and 2019, both by just 7 points. But there's one game that stands out, a thrilling divisional playoff game in 2019, where the Texans jumped out to a 24-0 lead. Things looked grim, but the Chiefs turned it around spectacularly, scoring 4 touchdowns before halftime and ultimately winning 51-31. The Chiefs and Texans have a rich history, both in the regular season and playoffs, and any team that makes it to the divisional round should never be underestimated. As the Chiefs prepare for this divisional matchup, it's worth noting that Patrick Mahomes has been incredibly successful in the divisional round throughout his career, making him an even more dangerous player in these high-stakes games. Additionally, there's some exciting news about a key defensive player returning, which should be a massive boost for the Chiefs. The Chiefs also have the advantage of playing at home in this divisional round, and that could make all the difference. They're currently 8.5-point favorites, and the cold weather forecast, highs of 25 degrees Fahrenheit, lows around 8 degrees Fahrenheit, and wind chills near zero, should favor the Chiefs, especially since Houston is a dome team accustomed to Texas weather. It may not be as frigid as last year's wildcard game against the Dolphins, but it's certainly going to be a bone-chilling experience for the Texans. The weather could play a key role in this game, giving the Chiefs another edge. Before diving deeper into this upcoming matchup, let's look back at the Texans' performance after their loss to the Chiefs on December 21st. Following that game, they were absolutely dominated by the Ravens on Christmas, losing 31-2. Their only highlight was a safety they scored by tackling Derrick Henry in the second quarter. After that, they did have a slight bounce-back game against the Titans, winning 23-14, but it wasn't a game you can take too seriously. C.J. Stroud only threw 6 passes before backup Davis Mills took over for the rest of the game. The Texans did pull off an impressive upset in the wild-card round, defeating the Chargers 32-2, but I didn't expect them to win that one. Houston's defense played a huge role in the victory, and they'll need another strong showing if they hope to take down the Chiefs. One player to watch on Houston's defense is linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair. He played nearly every snap last week against the Chargers, but missed practice on Tuesday due to a knee issue. It's worth noting that he had already missed 3 games earlier this season because of knee problems, and he wasn't on the field during the last matchup between the Chiefs and Texans because of a suspension for a dirty hit on Trevor Lawrence. If Al-Shaair is healthy enough to play, he will definitely be a boost to the Texans' defense, so it's something to keep an eye on. He did practice on Wednesday, so it seems like he might be good to go for this game. The Texans' defensive line is another area of concern for the Chiefs. This unit is the real deal, finishing the season in the top 5 for sacks. Last week, they sacked Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert 4 times, with defensive stars like Denico Hunter and Will Anderson Jr., both recording double-digit sacks for the season. Anderson had 1.5 sacks just last week. If that wasn't enough, the Texans also picked off Herbert 4 times, one of which was returned for a touchdown. Their secondary is full of takeaway machines, with cornerback Derek Stingley Jr. and safety Jimmy Ward each recording multiple interceptions this season. In total, the Texans had the second most interceptions in the league this year. Special teams and defense combined for 12 of the Texans' 32 points in their win over the Chargers. So it's clear that this is a team that can make plays all over the field. Special teams will also be a key focus for the Chiefs. Kicker Harrison Butker has struggled a bit since returning from injury, missing either a field goal or an extra point in 3 of his last 4 games. However, special teams coordinator Dave Taub mentioned that Butker is starting to look more like his old self, which should bring some relief. On the defensive side, Chiefs coordinator Steve Spagnuolo had high praise for Texans' second-year quarterback C.J. Stroud. Spagnuolo was impressed by Stroud's performance and even spoke with him after their last matchup in December. He also respects wide receiver Nico Collins, who will be a major threat to the Chiefs' defense. Stroud had a solid performance against the Chargers last week, throwing for 282 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. However, it's worth mentioning that the Chargers didn't capitalize on Stroud's interception, as they immediately threw an interception of their own. Stroud's ability to limit mistakes and lead the Texans' offense will be something to watch closely. The Texans had a rough time with turnovers during their wild-card win over the Chargers. They fumbled twice early in the game, with John Mechie losing a pass he caught from C.J. Stroud on the first play, and running back Joe Mixon fumbling in the second half. Both fumbles were recovered by the Chargers, giving Houston 3 turnovers in total. If the Texans make that many mistakes against a team like the Chiefs, it's hard to imagine them coming out on top, especially by a wide margin. Patrick Mahomes, on the other hand, has been exceptional at protecting the ball, especially in the second half of the season. Over his last 9 games, Mahomes has only thrown 2 interceptions, with one of those coming in the final moments of the game against Buffalo, a throw that didn't really count as a legitimate mistake. In his last 6 games, Mahomes has attempted 237 passes, completing 153 of them for over 1,500 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. His play has been incredibly clean and efficient. Looking specifically at Mahomes' performances in divisional playoff games, it's clear he takes his game to another level. He's played in 6 divisional games in his career, winning all 6. He's posted a 70.4% completion rate, a 13-0 touchdown to interception ratio, 16 total touchdowns, and no turnovers. His passer rating in those games is 115.8, which is the best among all quarterbacks in divisional round history. This type of performance is almost impossible to top, and it's bad news for the Texans. Injuries, however, could play a role in this game for the Texans. Tight end Cade Stover, who fractured his collarbone in the wildcard game, will not be playing. Stover had 4 catches for 28 yards in that game, so his absence could hurt the Texans' offensive depth. They're also missing other key players, including wide receiver Stephon Diggs, who was placed on injured reserve after tearing his ACL earlier in the season, and wide receiver Tank Dell, who was recently placed on IR after suffering an injury during the touchdown catch against the Chiefs at Arrowhead. With several of their key offensive weapons sidelined, the Texans have tried to bring in new talent, like wide receiver Deontay Johnson, who they picked up from waivers after his stint with the Panthers and Ravens. However, Johnson was frustrated with his lack of playing time and was waived by Houston just after their wildcard win. With these injuries and roster changes, the Texans' offense will lean heavily on tight end Dalton Schultz and wide receivers John Mechie, Robert Woods, and Nico Collins, who is their top receiver and one of the best in the NFL. However, Woods is dealing with a hip issue and hasn't practiced the past couple of days, and Schultz, while expected to play, is limited due to a shoulder issue. So while the Texans have some capable players, they might not be at full strength, which is something the Chiefs can take advantage of. At this point in the season, it's rare to see any player fully healthy, except for maybe the Chiefs, who are coming into this game well-rested after a longer break. But more on that in a minute. For the Texans, their guard, Shaw Mason, has been dealing with an injury and hasn't played in a few games, though he's showing some signs of improvement. After being a DNP, did not practice, on Tuesday, he participated in limited practice on Wednesday. This is something the Chiefs' defense should take advantage of, especially in the interior offensive line, as Texans quarterback C.J. Stroud has been one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league this season. Stroud was brought down twice during the last matchup against the Chiefs, and ideally, Kansas City's defense should aim for at least 3 sacks, particularly on 3rd down. On the other side of the injury report, the Chiefs are entering this game in a much better position. Chris Jones spoke to the media and said after some much-needed rest, his calf feels great. Patrick Mahomes' ankle is also in good condition, and pretty much everyone else on the injury report has been fully participating in practice. The only exception is wide receiver Mecole Hardman, who remains sidelined. Among those fully participating are safety Shamari Connor, who left the Denver game early with a shoulder issue, and linebacker Isaiah Pacheco, who had a rib injury during the Steelers game on Christmas. Both of them are trending to be good to go for this matchup. A key player to mention is cornerback Jaylen Watson, whose window to return from IR opened on January 3rd. He's been progressing well in rehab, and Andy Reid was optimistic about his chances of playing in this game. Reid said, "He's in good shape. I'm not telling you he can play a whole game, but he has a chance to play." This kind of positive language from Reid is a good sign, as he's typically more cautious with updates on injured players, given that the Chiefs already have a spot open on the roster after placing defensive tackle Marlon Tuipulotu on IR. It's likely Watson will be activated this week. Whether he plays a full game or is used on a snap count, his return would be a significant boost to the Chiefs' secondary. Before Watson's injury, the Chiefs' defense was ranked in the top 10 for expected points added per play, EPA. After Watson went down, the defense dropped to 28th in that category. While the defense has improved somewhat since then, Watson's return should only help them get back to their top-tier level. When Watson was healthy, He was exceptional at preventing separation from wide receivers, and his ability to lock down his coverage will make it harder for CJ Stroud to target anyone outside of rookie standout cornerback Trent McDuffie. If Watson can return to his pre-injury form, it will be a massive boost for the Chiefs' defense as they try to contain Houston's offense. Jaylen Watson's potential return is a huge boost for the Chiefs' defense. After a strong showing in practice this week, he's looking ready to play for the first time since October 20th. This is excellent news, as his return will help strengthen a secondary that's been without him for a while. Watson has the ability to make an immediate impact, and it adds depth to a defense that's already a force, especially with players like Chris Jones and George Karlaftis. The Chiefs' defensive focus should be on limiting two key players from the Texans. The first is running back Joe Mixon, who rushed for over 100 yards in the wildcard win over the Chargers. When Mixon is able to break out with big runs, the Texans tend to win. In their last matchup on December 21st, the Chiefs did a good job containing him, holding him to just 57 yards. Sticking to that strategy of shutting down Mixon will be important again. The second key player to watch is wide receiver Nico Collins. He had a great game against the Chargers, catching over 100 yards and a touchdown. The Chiefs were able to limit him to 7 catches for 60 yards in their last meeting, but Collins is a top threat and should be a priority. Along with Collins, tight end Dalton Schultz, who caught 5 passes for 45 yards in Week 16, will also be someone the Chiefs need to keep in check. If Kansas City can limit these two players and pressure CJ Stroud a few times, forcing even one turnover, they should have a good shot at success. On the defensive line, Charles Omenihu is another player to watch. He'll be facing his former team, the Texans, and he's made it clear that he's not fond of how things went during his time there before being traded to the Chiefs. This extra motivation could push him to have a strong performance. Also, safety Justin Reed, another former Texan, will bring extra energy to the game with his familiarity with Houston's offensive schemes. On the offensive side, DeAndre Hopkins is someone to keep an eye on. Though he only had 4 catches for 37 yards in the last game against Houston, I expect his role to increase in this playoff matchup. This is exactly why the Chiefs brought him in: his experience and ability to make big plays in high-stakes situations. Houston's secondary will already be busy trying to contain targets like Hollywood Brown, Travis Kelce, and Xavier Worthy, so Hopkins could have an opportunity to make a bigger impact. Speaking of Worthy, his production has been rising in the latter half of the season, especially in the last 2 games since Brown returned to the lineup. Worthy has averaged 7 receptions per game recently, and his growing connection with Mahomes could provide another valuable weapon for the Chiefs. With all these players stepping up, the Chiefs are looking strong heading into this playoff battle. Xavier Worthy has been exceptional in the back half of the season, averaging 7 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown in his last 2 games. This remarkable production is a testament to the rookie's potential, and he will play a significant role in this upcoming playoff game. Worthy's emergence, along with the 1-2 punch of Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco in the backfield, will be crucial for the Chiefs. Both running backs will be well rested heading into this game, especially Hunt, who was signed mid-season and had been battling soreness after his initial games with the team. With Hunt now fully up to speed and ready to contribute, he could be an X-factor, particularly in the passing game. In a previous game against Houston, the Chiefs' running backs combined for 6 catches and 73 yards, and Hunt's versatility as both a rusher and receiver will provide an additional threat to the Texans' defense. The Chiefs have been dominant at Arrowhead this season, remaining undefeated at home, and Mahomes has a perfect record in divisional playoff games. The combination of a strong home field advantage and the Chiefs' solid form makes them a very tough team to beat in this matchup. I'm predicting a 24-17 victory for the Chiefs in a more defensive, low-scoring affair than their previous game against Houston due to the cold weather conditions. Many analysts are also backing the Chiefs to win, and the recipe for success is clear: play a clean game, protect the football, prevent turnovers, capitalize in the red zone, and make sure special teams execute, particularly Harrison Butker making his kicks. If the Chiefs can do these things, victory is all but assured. I'd love to hear your score predictions and thoughts on the keys to victory for this game in the comments below. Until next time, let's go Chiefs! How about those Chiefs?